It was standing there in the corner.
Hello, welcome back to YCFT. Insidious, the Red Door, hence the all of red that we're wearing, is coming out soon, very soon. Mm-hmm. In fact, the trailer was dropped. We knew it was coming. We didn't realize how soon the film was coming.
Yeah.
So we're doing a bit of a build up to that film, and so this week we're talking about Insidious 1. Next week we can talk about Insidious 2. But we thought, what can we do that's slightly different than just talking about the first Insidious film, which is directed by James Wan and written by Lee Winnell and was released back in 2011, which is baffling to me. Upon rewatch, you kind of noticed similarities with Poltergeist.
Yes.
Released it, obviously directed by Tobe Hooper, written and produced by Steven Spielberg.
Yep.
And released in 1982. And we realized that then we went out and I got Poltergeist, we watched it, and it's like, oh shit, yeah, there are a lot of similarities.
There are a lot of similarities.
You looked online, there is like, that people have made comparisons before.
Yeah, people have kind of cottoned on, like put, two and two together. And so when we watched... Well, actually, when was the last time we watched Insidious? It was fairly recent.
It was fairly recent, but I watched it. Should I get a synopsis for each one?
You go for it.
Because this isn't one where we in-depth break down the plot. I feel like most people know the plot of Insidious and Poltergeist.
It's an old friend at this point.
Yeah. So Insidious revolves around this family that spooky things are happening. Their son Dalton ends up going into a coma because of...
a spooky encounter in the attic.
A spooky encounter puts him into a coma. And it is revealed to the family that it isn't the house that is haunted because they literally try and move away from their house, but it's their son that is haunted. And they have to bring in a psychic to, like... Would you call Elise a psychic?
Yeah, I would say, psychic. The easiest way to...
Who reveals that his father, played by Patrick Wilson, who's great, was also haunted as a child, and they both have the ability to astral project. But they made him forget about it because a being known as the Bride in Black was trying to possess his body as a child. And that is what is happening to Dalton. A demon known as the red-faced demon or the lipstick-faced demon is trying to possess him, but it takes a long time. So he has captured his spirit form, spectral form, and is keeping him hostage. And the longer he's away from his body, the more chance he has to possess him. And that attracts a lot of ghouls to their home because there's open vessels that want to live. So Josh has to go into this area known as the Further, which is essentially like the afterlife, like a purgatory, and rescue his son. Poltergeist is about a family where spooky things start happening. And look, everyone knows the twist of Poltergeist at this point. Their house is built on an old burial ground.
You son of a bitch, you left the bodies and you only moved the headstones! You only moved the headstones! Why?
And that is why just their house is being haunted and their child is taken by an evil spiritual presence to a spiritual world beyond theirs, and a parent has to go in and get them
and bring them back.
It sounds a little bit familiar, doesn't it?
There is a shitload of similarities.
There is. I wouldn't say it's like even like ripping it off. Like James Wan has always been like quite recently. I was watching a video of him talking about Dead Silence, which I actually do think is a bit of an underrated.
I agree.
Film, and he in that interview said, because obviously that's all about dolls, and he said that's the first time I've heard him talk about Poltergeist. Like the dolls, like the clown doll, and it scared him as a child, and it led to a lifelong fascination of creepy dolls.
Yes. So
and you found another one where he talks about.
Yeah, so we were kind of curious, like when we realised, oh shit, like there's quite a lot of similarities here. We were like, wait, is this one of those instances where it's like it's a subconscious thing on James Wan's part? You know, like he's watched this film as a kid and like certain themes and ideas have stuck with him. Or is it just, total coincidence? But no, he has name-checked Poltergeist as a major inspiration for him. And I found this one particular quote where he was asked what some of his favourite horror films are. And he said, Poltergeist was definitely a very influential film for me, and I saw it at an impressionable age, and it made a huge impression on me. And that creepy clown doll definitely scarred me for life. So I think it's safe to say Wan is a fan of Poltergeist.
Yeah.
But he's also said it was a very influential film for him.
I was reading something online, like kind of like a Reddit thread, where people referred to Insidious as the remake of Poltergeist we deserved. I was saying in 2015 there was a remake of Poltergeist. I know it's not. Poltergeist isn't one of your favourite films.
It's not. I'm going to say it right at the bat. I enjoy the movie. It's not a film I return to a lot. Some things kind of grate on me, and I always thought that like the supernatural stuff doesn't really gel well with like the more kind of like fantastical stuff. And again, it kind of goes back to that thing of Spielberg versus Hooper. Like who was the bigger influence on the movie?
Yeah, we're not getting into that.
We're not getting into that.
We are not getting into that.
Absolutely not. But yeah, I enjoyed watching it again for the sake of this more than I did the last time I watched it. But I kind of feel like Insidious maybe succeeded in making a more overtly creepy film. I
do like how this basically was meant to act as like a successor to Close Encounters.
Oh, God, yeah.
And apparently Tobe Hooper wanted to make it more of like a supernatural type one.
Yeah.
And that fascinates me.
Yeah.
It really does. And there's reasons why Spielberg couldn't direct it. It's complicated. We'll not get into it.
Yeah.
That's it. I think the next time we'll talk about Poltergeist will probably be in 2025 when it is the 10-year anniversary of the remake.
Yeah.
We'll do a versus on it there.
Cool.
But because it's not one of our favourite films, didn't really want to do a video just on it for the sake of it.
But we wanted to
I did enjoy it a lot more on rewatch because it's been a
Same.
very long time since I've watched it. And
Same.
The production quality on that film is just incredible.
Absolutely.
It's a Spielberg film. Like a Spielberg production, of course it's going to look nice.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
You want to start going through some of the comparisons that you made?
For sure. I mean, I think it kind of starts with the casting, right? Like, Insidious, we have Patrick Wilson, the great Patrick Wilson, and we also have this stunningly beautiful Rose Byrne. Rewind to 1982, watch Poltergeist, we have Craig T. Nelson, and we have the also beautiful Jo Beth Williams. Side-by-side comparison, physically, they are very similar. Yeah. Like, I think Nelson and Wilson, especially, like, there is a very similar look. So I feel like even just right off the bat, in terms of the casting, we've got some physical similarities going on there.
They have the same number of kids as well, just at different ages.
There's 3 kids in Poltergeist, there's 3 kids in Insidious.
Yeah, two sons and a daughter. No, it's 2 daughters and a son in Poltergeist.
2 sons and a daughter.
And a daughter in Insidious.
Also very true. We have a connection where, for the most part, the husband is at work whilst all the creepy stuff is going on in the home, and it's the wife who is left at home to, like, kind of face the music, as it were. She's the one that witnesses the activity. That happens in both films. And I guess, like, the more overt one is, yes, a child is taken into another realm.
A demonic force lures the child, befriends the child, because that happens in Insidious as well. The red-faced demon does try to befriend Dawn. When you look at him, you would not want to be friends with him.
No.
But I think that in later films they refer to it as the Beast from Poltergeist, is what befriended.
Tangina says the Beast.
Is that it?
Tangina. The psychic woman.
What's the daughter called in it?
The one that's taken.
Yeah.
Carol Ann.
The Beast befriends Carol Ann and kind of lures her away. Then, to be fair, just straight up just take her, but just befriend her.
Yeah.
And kind of she's trapped there for a while, and Dalton is trapped in the further for months.
Yeah, that is absolutely true. So I mean, again,
there's a difference between Poltergeist. They take her in her entirety, body and all, whereas in Insidious,
corporeal
his body
form
is
and
left
everything.
there. Yeah.
Whereas in Insidious, like his vessel is left in the coma, but he's obviously like not responsive. So it's like subtle difference there. But yeah, also there was a quote that Tangina, who is essentially the Lynn Shay character in Poltergeist,
both have a psychic.
Both have a female psychic, kind of eccentric and memorable in their own way.
Both have the scientific groups that go there as well to investigate.
But Tangina kind of, again, much like Lynn Shay, she kind of lays down, the cold hard facts. Like she's an expert. She knows exactly what's going on here, and the question that everyone has is, why was Carol Ann taken? Why was my daughter taken? And she says, she is a living presence in their spiritual earthbound plane. And it's something kind of really inherently.
Well, a lot of people thought that it was a plot hole that only this house was the one that was being affected.
Yeah.
But there's actually is a line there where it's like Carol Ann is the first person to be born in this new town.
She is the first baby
is
born on the premises. And exactly, that's why the spirits are attracted to her energy. Like there's a kind of intrinsic sort of connection that they form with her.
The spirits in the fervor are attracted to the life of Dalton's vessel.
Yeah, the whole thing is these spirits, and again, Tangina says they are stuck in a perpetual nightmare. They crave life, like they want to live again. They want to be as close to it as possible.
But a lot of them don't realise they're dead.
Something just really unnerving about that whole concept for me. Like it really does creep me out. But yeah, it's a very similar thing, and I guess you could debate which film kind of explores it better. But in Insidious,
they both explore it in very different ways.
In very different ways, but it's exactly the same kind of concept. Dalton is taken by the lipstick-faced demon because he wants ultimately control of Dalton's vessel. Like these spirits are infiltrating the house because they are drawn to Dalton's presence. They are drawn to his energy. He's almost like he's kind of like opened a door, essentially, and they're passing through. So that is obviously something that James Wan saw in Poltergeist and was like, right, I'm going to run with this because this is fascinating.
It's like he saw Poltergeist because we never see the world beyond where Carol Ann is taken. The light. It's like James Wan saw that and thought, what would you see if you went over there? And we see the fervor. We travel into the fervor with Josh.
Yes.
So it's it's like that childhood dream of like, I want to be able to make probably what wouldn't have been possible to make back in 82.
Yeah. Definitely. It's like it's a similarity, but it's also a big difference. Like in Poltergeist, we see the void. And it's kind of like this big sort of shining light in Carol Ann's like little closet. And we know obviously the mum passes through to try and retrieve her daughter, not the dad, but the mum in this time. But we don't ever get to see inside that world. We don't get to see what the light looks like. We don't get to see the spirit. We don't really encounter a lot of spirits necessarily. We don't see them like wandering around the house.
That's right. We usually see a lot of poltergeist activity of things moving around, things being pushed. A lot of things do kind of get pushed and moved around, and sometimes even the characters get like physically pushed around. They do in Insidious.
Yeah, but again, it's almost like James Wan, as he was watching Poltergeist, was like, wonder what that place looks like.
Yeah, I'm going to make a really dark and scary version.
Yeah, it was.
I have problems with the fervor. I don't think the fervor works very well in the first Insidious.
Controversial opinion, maybe.
I think it's done better in the later sequels.
Uh-huh.
But it's an interesting idea.
It is an interesting idea. And yeah, like for all intents and purposes, one kind of presents it as this purgatory, like this space in between two other worlds where these spirits are just kind of trapped and just sometimes aware that they're dead, but also kind of just weirdly like replaying events and just like this timeless, voidless space, I guess. It's something really creepy about it.
Not somewhere you'd ever want to be stuck.
No. But again, we don't see that in Poltergeist. We just get a little idea of what it is like.
Yeah, we don't know what Carol Ann's been through.
No, but I think it is definitely something one was like, okay, all right, we can explore that in a way that Poltergeist didn't.
Another link that kind of comes in the Poltergeist sequels, because you were curious about this one's, like obviously in Insidious, it is Dalton that is haunted, not the house. This house is haunted in Poltergeist, but because of Carol Ann. Yeah. And in the sequels, the beast does go after her again. So I think you can say it's like she is also the one that is haunted, and by going into the light, she will have a permanent connection with them. Yeah. So that is also it's just not outwardly said like it is in Insidious. And no, it's not the house that's haunted. It's your son. It's your son.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a similar deal with Poltergeist, because we come to learn that the real estate agency has done, like, they've cut a lot of corners, done some shoddy deals, and I think the whole neighborhood there are bodies buried just like left, right, and center.
You only move the headstones.
Yeah,
it's so famous. Like that is a great twist.
You
like
it's the bodies, but you the headstone, or like whatever it is. It's so well delivered by Craig T. Nelson.
It really is.
But yeah, I guess like a question that people ask is, well, if the whole neighborhood or the whole cul-de-sac is like based on the burial ground, then why is it only this particular house? And again, the film does tell us that answer is it's Carol Ann, because she is the first baby that's born on the premises. So, yeah, the house is kind of haunted, but only because of her. And we learn that the beast, the entity that's, you know, much like the lipstick face demon, is restraining the child and keeping it close to them so no one else can kind of get dibs, follows them into the sequels.
Yeah.
Now, I should say, I've not seen the sequels.
Yeah, we've not seen the sequels.
But from what I can gather, that's the plot of it. It's like it kind of
To me, I imagine James Wan has seen the sequels.
I feel like he's absolutely.
I was going to say, this isn't a comparison. I just want to compare the two best scares in each one. Because Poltergeist is not a scary film. But there is a moment.
I don't think it is.
There is a moment with one of the investigators in the bathroom. It's such a famous one where his face is essentially has a cut on his cheek and he starts picking at it and his whole face comes off. It is done incredible. I think that for alone is why it's a 15.
Yeah, it's very well done. From what I can gather, Poltergeist was initially going to be a lot darker.
Yeah.
A lot darker. And I think in one of the drafts, Toby Hooper and Spielberg considered killing Carol Ann off.
Yeah.
But then I think Spielberg was like, actually, it would be fun if we could do a double bill of Poltergeist and E.T. in the cinemas. You know, people can go and see both my movies. Yeah. And they won't be able to do that if Poltergeist is rated R.
I think it was the wise choice because this one was very successful. But the scare I want to compare it with, it can't really compare because they're entirely different, but I just want to point out the two best scares in each film is that one with the face coming off. But also the reveal of the lipstick face demon in the first one, which is the middle of the day. The daytime is safe.
Daytime is traditionally safe.
I think that is like a rule that has very much gone by the wayside over the past 10 years or so now. We expect to be safe during the daytime. We are now not. But this one's like literally just cutting back to behind Patrick Wilson's face and you just see the lipstick face demon just hide. I only just noticed he's actually on the front cover in the window. You can see like his arm stretching out. I've never noticed that before. What? And that is horrifying when you first see that. There's absolutely no way you could know that he was going to be there. No. James Wan and Lee Winnell are amazing at crafting jump scares.
Yeah.
Because the way they do jump scares, it's really easy to do them badly, but they always really craft these scares. And it's the most memorable part of the entire movie. And it's so quick.
Yeah. It would have been a fun one to see in the cinema. I never did see Insidious. But I can imagine the reaction from the crowd.
I know I've seen like all the others, but I can't for the life of me remember if I saw the first one.
There's also just something about the way like he kind of breathes. Because like he's so animalistic. He's a demon. Like he was never human to begin with. But the way he's just kind of like looking at Barbara Hershey, like behind, kind of crouching behind Patrick Wilson. He's kind of like, I don't know. There's something just really kind of off about it. Yeah, and I guess we do in Poltergeist, we do see the beast when it kind of guards Carol Ann's bedroom outside, prevents the mum from going in. And we get that great line of, don't you hurt my babies? Yeah. Or something like that.
God, obviously, it's so famous at this point that they used real skeletons in the pool scene because they were cheaper than making them.
Look, I think I'm kind of set on doing a separate little video about the
cursed film, isn't it?
The curse of Poltergeist. Yeah. But yes, some real skeletons were used in that scene where she ends up in like the pool. Another link is so in Poltergeist, before Tangina the psychic enters the scene.
Tangina appears in the sequels, doesn't she?
She does.
Just like Lynn Shay, the psychic, ended up becoming like the main character of the later films.
Yes.
Like she's in all of them, so we don't know if she's going to be in the fifth one.
I don't know how much with the Poltergeist sequels the franchise is kind of built around her character, but I know she features in them, which is another little connection. But yeah, before she enters the scene, we have a female scientist enter with 2 male sidekicks, and of course, Insidious, we have Lynn Shay with Specs and Tucker.
Yeah.
Who they are paranormal investigators, but they also have, like the equipment.
The scientific side of it. The Ghost Adventures side of it.
And I think, one thing Poltergeist does quite well, I think, is like, it builds this family unit. Obviously, you've got the family anyway, but then when this lady investigator comes into it and she brings the 2 guys into it, like they they stay in the house with the family. It's not like they're investigating during the day and then buggering off at night and leaving them to it. Like, they're actually all in it together. And, you know, she says to Jo Beth Williams, like, I'm going to go because I need to deliver this, equipment off or whatever, but I'm going to come back. She's like, you know, you need to know I'm going to come back. I'm not going to leave you. I'm in it for the long haul now. Like, I'm invested in this. And I really kind of like how they did that. And I think in Insidious, there's almost like a similar thing. Like, Lynn Shay gets quite personally invested
because, as we know, she's been invested in Josh since he was a child. But Josh just kicked them out because he thinks he doesn't believe in any of it.
Yeah.
And, like, the father in Poltergeist, he doesn't believe in this.
No.
But until he's physically can see it. But he's doing it to keep his family safe. And to keep his, he believes his wife.
Yeah.
He believes that something is happening.
Yeah. One thing that kind of does great on me, and this is a difference from Insidious, is the reactions of the parents to what is going on around them. Because, like, I don't doubt for a second that they are genuinely heartbroken and terrified that their daughter has disappeared somewhere in the house. But, like, when Jo Beth Williams first gets her husband to, you know, look at, like, the weird stuff that's happening, and, like, they do the thing with the chair, and she's excited by it. Like, she's almost giddy with excitement by it. And it's just, you know, Rose Byrne in Insidious, obviously different context. She's just downright petrified of it. Like, this is a woman she's just broken down totally. Like, she can't deal with it. And, like, they're not necessarily on the same, not that they're not on the same side, but they're not on the same page.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Patrick Wilson is a little bit more distant, and takes him a while to kind of accept.
He spends a lot of time, like, staying late at work.
Yeah.
It shows more marital strain between them.
Yeah. Whereas Craig
Which
T. Nelson...
I like seeing. Not that I like seeing the marital strain, but I like how it sets up their relationship of two people who are on completely different sides of what's happening.
Yeah, totally.
But also dealing with... Obviously, it's more fantastical than Poltergeist. Like, the child is literally completely vanished. He has to get on board. In Insidious, their child is, like, fallen off a ladder and fallen into a coma the next day. To them, it's a very medical... Like, it looks like a medical thing. Yeah. So for Rose Byrne to be like, oh, there's something supernatural happened, I can understand that Patrick Wilson, as the father character, might not believe in that and might genuinely just think that this is something medical. Yeah. I think it's easier to build tension between the parents around that type of setup.
When Rose Byrne starts experiencing spooky stuff, it's kind of easy for Patrick Wilson to put it down to, you know, she's stuck in the house all day with our son who's in a coma. She's looking after the baby. She's traumatized. She's stressed. Like, it's down to that. And, you know, she says, doesn't she? Like, you know, I need you to believe me. I
will always give this to him as a character because he always follows it with, I moved for you. He could see how uncomfortable she is in the house. That he literally agrees to move.
The thing is with that, points that, you know, he actually did it. Moving house is not an easy feat. But I think the thing that kind of, I don't know, undercuts it a bit is the fact that, he moves for her, but he doesn't move for the reasons that she needs him to move for her. It's like he's moving because he just sees his wife is stressed out and going through a bit of she's in a bad place at the minute. Whereas she needs him to believe that there are actually ghosts around them. And he doesn't move for that reason. He doesn't move because he thinks the house is haunted. Yeah. He moves because he sees his wife is in turmoil.
It's like, it's both half good, half bad part of his reasoning. Yeah. But one thing I like, because in Poltergeist, they can't leave because their child has disappeared within the house. But I've always liked Insidious. It's like, oh, we think our house is haunted. Let's leave. Yeah.
and one connection as well is both instances, there is a bit of strife between the parents and the psychic. Yeah. So in Poltergeist, where Tangina is encouraging the mum to talk to Carol Ann, she has to she has to lie to her kid, basically. But for her own safety, but Tangina is telling the mum to, like, no, don't tell her that, tell her this instead. And the mum gets really irate with Tangina, saying, like, I don't want to lie to my baby, why are you making me do this? Like, I hate you, please don't make me do this. She has to do it. And then similarly, in Insidious, you said that Patrick Wilson is initially a bit antagonistic towards Lynn Shay. He doesn't like the idea of, there being any kind of supernatural explanation for what's going on. He thinks it's dangerous to meddle in that sort of thing.
He thinks that she's trying to con them.
Yeah. So
because he can't remember meeting her as a child.
I like how both of them, like the psychic, yes, they're personally invested, and ultimately, like, they become friends with the parents to an extent. But it's like, well, the psychic also is willing to do whatever they need to do to get the job done. And, Lin Shaye does make them do, like, certain...
Weird things.
Yeah. Like, she says, you have to be the one to go and get your son back. Like, I can't do it. It's got to be you. So I kind of like that as well. Like, the psychic is willing to burn a few bridges, potentially, for the sake of the child.
Yeah. Well, main differences are, I'm going to say the endings of both films are very different.
Yeah.
Like, Poltergeist has the happy ending.
Yeah.
The house is destroyed in an amazing set piece where the house is like sucked
just
into a void.
literally like destroys itself, yeah.
And they escape. In Insidious, they get Dalton back, but Josh didn't come back.
No.
This is where we find out Lin Shaye is murdered by Josh, and we find out that the bride in black finally got her vessel. And she takes revenge on Lin Shaye for preventing her from getting Josh when he was a child.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing ending.
It is a great ending.
That is a great... And they never intended to do a sequel to this.
No.
That was how the film was just supposed to end.
There is something so violent about that strangulation scene as well. Like, it literally feels like, like she's struggling there. Like, it's, great ending. I do always
Yeah,
really
I've always really enjoyed that.
Enjoy seeing Lin Shaye being strangled to death.
I'm not a fan. I've got nothing against Lin Shaye. My issue with Elise as a character is she's too bubbly. There are later films where we see Elise... There's prequels, that's how we can see her again. Yeah. Where she's kind of like down and depressed. And to be honest, she's much more palatable when she's like that. It's when she goes into the...
Happy.
Oh, let's go do this. I'm like,
let's go into the further.
Let's go into the further.
Into the further we go.
I don't know why, she just really annoys me.
What do you make of Tangina? Who, by the way, is played by Zelda Rubinstein.
That's a great name. She's just a bit odd, isn't she? Like, she doesn't have a ton of screen time. I think I'll give this to Elise. I think she has a bit more of a presence.
Yeah. But I love the character of Tangina.
I bet Tangina didn't like Toby Hooper, did she?
She did not like Toby Hooper.
She thought he had a drug problem, which has never been recorded, as far as I can see. No. And everyone else who worked on the film basically said,
she gave him a bit of a hard time, and I don't really know why. Like, other people from work the film don't know why. The basis also kind of says, we think she just didn't like him. Yeah, she just took like an instant
dislike. He was very professional and polite with her. Yeah. She just didn't like him.
She just straight up was like, no, more of a Spielberg.
Again, like, the variety in Toby Hooper's filmography. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, Salem's Lot, which we've talked about a lot recently, and now they are three very, very different projects.
Yeah, totally.
And obviously, like, brief talk, like, it's debated, like, who directed it. I think he did direct it.
I'd like to think he did, but look, ultimately...
This is also his first... Well, I don't think it was his first studio film, but it was his biggest studio film to date.
Yeah. I mean, ultimately, the main reason Spielberg didn't direct this is because it clashed with the schedule for E.T. He couldn't.
He was contracted. He could not direct another film until E.T. came out.
He is credited... he has the story by Steven Spielberg, and he's also credited as co-screenwriter, and he also produced it. So I feel like Spielberg was a very active, very physical presence on the set. I feel like he was probably there most days. Yeah. I don't feel like it was a situation of, right, Toby, you've got this, I'm going to leave you to it.
A lot of people said, oh no, there's people on both sides saying that different people, each of them directed it. Mm. But when I don't want to get too much into this. When he found out that there were people thinking that, because there was an investigation by one of the directors guilds or whatever, into who actually directed it, because they want to make sure he wasn't breaching his contract. He published a letter, basically explaining, like, Toby Hooper directed this film. I have so much respect for him.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, totally.
And they must have been on good terms, because Toby Hooper went on to direct an episode or two of Taken.
Oh,
surely did. So they must have ended on good terms, and I think, like, Toby Hooper directed this film. Spielberg might have set up a few shots. I think he was probably just enthusiastic. On the day.
Yeah.
And he said Toby was always the person to call action and cut And it's like, at the end of the day, isn't that what a director
That is what a director does. Yeah, for sure. I mean, look, at the end of the day, it was a very successful movie. But yeah, to compare them in terms of their scares, Insidious...
It's a scarier film.
Beats it, for sure. Poltergeist is an entertaining movie. And I think the themes it deals with are really interesting. But I do think that James Wan... Like, the inspiration he got from Poltergeist is executed a bit better. Or at least, like, to my personal taste. Like, I would rather watch Insidious and get a bit more freaked out by Insidious than
Insidious
rewatch Poltergeist.
There's a lot of creepy for the sake of creepy.
That's
like the Brian Black, for example, who went on to become quite a big character, was literally just there to be creepy. And the film had a budget of, what, $2.5 million or something?
Something like that.
It was very... Insidious had a very small budget, so the fact the film looks as good as what it does, but as time goes on, it's more and more obvious that it's a lower budget film.
Yeah. And ultimately, I just think, the idea that the dead crave life and are literally willing to steal either, like an actual child, body and soul and all, or just spirit form to, because they want that, they want to live again. That is just, in both instances, it's just a creepy concept. So yeah, I think, again, my preference is Insidious, but I have to respect that Poltergeist kind of walked so Insidious could run.
Yeah. Have you got any more notes?
No, I think those are like the main ones that stood out to me. There might be a few more connections as well.
Yeah. There's a lot of like major story points that do line up. So
definitely line up for sure.
Yeah. So thanks for stopping by, guys. Have you ever noticed this?
Yeah.
Before, like, it fascinated us, and we wanted to do something slightly different for us rather than just talking about Insidious. Yeah. Although, ironically, next week we are just talking about Insidious Chapter 2.
But we love Insidious.
But apparently there have been comparisons made between that and Poltergeist 2.
Which, we need to watch Poltergeist 2.
Yeah, we're going to have to watch Poltergeist 2 at some point. We might do a video on that. But yeah. Have you ever noticed any of these differences? Are you excited for Insidious The Red Door?
Oh my god. Directed by Patrick Wilson.
Yeah, Patrick Wilson is directing it, which is...
Yeah.
So cool. Right. Thanks again, guys, and we'll see you next week.
Bye.